The streets of Israel have become a cauldron of unrest. From the mass protests against judicial reform to the shock and grief following the Hamas attacks, the nation finds itself deeply divided. Adding fuel to the fire is a long-simmering tension, the issue of ultra-Orthodox draft exemptions. This issue, with its roots in Israel's founding, has become a lightning rod for social and political discontent. The recent distribution of draft notices to ultra-Orthodox youth has only intensified the debate. For many Israelis, the sight of these young men potentially joining the ranks of the Israel Defense Forces is long overdue. They see it as a matter of equality and shared responsibility in a nation perpetually facing security threats. However, for the ultra-Orthodox community, the draft represents an existential threat to their way of life. The timing of these draft notices couldn't be more precarious for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. His coalition government, the most right-wing in Israel's history, relies heavily on the support of ultra-Orthodox parties. These parties view the draft exemption as sacrosanct, a non-negotiable condition for their continued political support. Netanyahu is caught in a seemingly impossible bind. On the one hand, he understands the growing public pressure to integrate the ultra-Orthodox into the IDF. The need for manpower in the face of constant security threats is undeniable. Moreover, the sense of injustice felt by secular and moderate Israelis who bear the brunt of military service is palpable. On the other hand, Netanyahu knows that alienating his ultra-Orthodox partners could bring down his government, potentially throwing the country into further turmoil. To understand this complex issue, we must go back to Israel's founding. In 1948, as the young state fought for its survival, Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion made a fateful decision. He granted a blanket exemption from military service to 400 ultra-Orthodox students. These students were to be the army of Torah, dedicating their lives to religious study and preserving Jewish tradition after the Holocaust's devastation. This exemption, intended as a temporary measure, became a cornerstone of the relationship between the secular Zionist leadership and the ultra-Orthodox community. It was a pragmatic compromise, born out of necessity and a shared commitment to rebuilding Jewish life. However, over time, this compromise morphed into a point of contention. A growing divide, expansion, and resentment. What began as an exemption for a few hundred students has ballooned into a system encompassing tens of thousands of ultra-Orthodox men. As the ultra-Orthodox population grew, so too did the ranks of those exempt from military service. This growth has fueled resentment among secular and moderate Israelis who view the exemption as inherently unfair and unsustainable. This resentment is further exacerbated by the economic realities. With a significant portion of the ultra-Orthodox community engaged in religious studies rather than paid employment, the financial burden of supporting their communities falls on the shoulders of those who do serve in the army and pay taxes. This situation has created a sense of social and economic imbalance, fueling calls for reform. The cost of exemption, social and economic impacts. The exemption's impact extends beyond the military. With limited participation in the workforce, the ultra-Orthodox community faces high poverty rates. This economic hardship has wider social repercussions, impacting access to education, healthcare, and overall quality of life. This situation creates a vicious cycle. The lack of secular education and job skills limits employment opportunities, perpetuating reliance on government stipends and social services. This dependence further isolates the ultra-Orthodox community, reinforcing social divisions and hindering integration into Israeli society.